Good morning, and welcome to our last module, follow-up, building a relationship, win or lose. Either raise your hand or put it in the chat if you cannot hear us. Otherwise, we'll get started. Montana PTAC is made possible by Big Sky Economic Development and its partner organizations across the state. This procurement technical assistance Center is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the Defense Logistics Agency. So we've already gone through Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, and today we are working on Module 4, the final module of this training series. And we're going to cover today is finding out selection schedule, inquiring about progress, answering questions that arise, responding to requests, clarification, elaboration, supplemental information, abiding by communication rules, preparing for an oral interview, and asking for a debriefing. So the first one, finding out about the selection schedule. So the first thing you need to do is to check the RFP. It may or may not be in the RFP. If it's not in the RFP, ask during the question and answer period. Otherwise, email or call and ask. Always check in periodically and ask to offer help if they need it. Periodically inquire. It's always wise to check in on the review process periodically. Prepare yourself like Bobby Fischer, at least 3 or 4 moves ahead. Maybe some of you don't know who Bobby Fischer is, but he was widely regarded as the world's smartest chess player in history, who had an IQ of 187. Once he was asked the question about how many moves he looked ahead, and he said, I instantly see around 3 or 4 moves ahead, but I crunch in my head upward of 20 moves before executing a task. The record that I have done is around 40 moves. I see all moves at once and remember every step in the entire line of reasoning, even 20 years later. The lesson learned for Bobby Fischer is to try to plan as many steps in advance as possible. And your genuine concern or lack of it about the wealth shows about the welfare of the government agency. And you can offer any information which may be needed. So answer any questions that arise. Prompt government to think about questions and inquire about any questions which may exist with them. Use the opportunity to show your expertise, demonstrate your positive qualities as a contractor, and be a business that the government wants to hire. Respond to any requests. Government's evaluation process may produce, I wish we had asked about that. And this may be your opportunity to get a second bite at the apple. So you ask, has anyone been eliminated from competition yet? What else can you, the problem solver, do to help them? Abide by the communication rules. Early in the solicitation process, there's a two-way communication. And after the question and answer period, and when final solicitation is issued, communication with the government officials will be prohibited. Post-proposal submittal, communication may be limited or may be stopped altogether. Familiarize yourself with the exact rules. So prepare for an oral interview. Rehearse numerous times. Prepare to address points asked and anticipate follow-ups. Plan for what could go wrong And remember that only one person is in charge at the interview. Pay close attention to any questions asked and designate someone to take notes. Presentation team must know their proposal's content. And remember, the government is trying to envision you as the contractor. If there is an oral interview, you will need both technical and decision makers involved so you can anticipate questions. Selected or not, ask for a debriefing. So you ask that from the contracting officer, and you have to ask within 3 days of the decision whether you were selected or not. And this is a federal rule. If notified on Friday, you need to have a request to the contracting officer by Monday. They don't care if it's a weekend or not. So don't be discouraged. No one wins every time. This is an opportunity for you to ask, what did we do right? Or what did we do wrong? And then learn from the experience. Incorporate what you learn into your next proposal. And remember, the proposal you've created can contain many elements that can be used again if you keep them up to date. So we're going to go to the exercise because it is going to take us a little bit of time to go through. So first thing we're going to look at is the actual RFP. And you should have gotten a copy. And we're going to go ahead and look at it. And it is Ducky County Department of Purchasing and Contracting, and they're looking for cost allocation plan and consulting services. And I spelled consulting wrong. Well, there you go. So this one, I tried to highlight some important information for you. In the introduction, there is important information in the general information area. And it says that it's the intention of Ducky County government to solicit proposals for professional services for overhead and administrative cost studies for all county programs. And then it also talks about the background of this RFP, why they're going after it, the current business environment. The initial term of this agreement, they're saying it'll be 12 months, and it could be renewed for 4 successive one-year terms. The following required document checklist includes, and then you can see what is required. The services shall commence within 10 calendar days after acknowledgement of receipt of written notice to proceed and should be completed by October 31st. Under the statement of work, it talks about that all proposals must provide appropriate documentation showing that the responder meets or exceeds the requirements contained herein. And then another important area was under the proposal format, and responders are required to submit their proposals in the following format. And it lays it out for you. Cost proposal, they're going to give you 10 points for that. Okay. Number 3, it says, do not include fees or any costs in any area outside of this cost. Proposal, it tells you including fees in any area outside in a separate sealed envelope shall result in responder's proposal being deemed non-responsive. I've highlighted responders shall not alter the cost proposal form. Technical proposal, they're going to give you 80 points for this. So you need to really concentrate on this area. Look at understanding the requirements, 30 points. Qualifications of staff, 20 points. Qualifications of the firm, 20 points. Financial responsibility, 5 points, and references, 5 points. So Ducky First Ordinance LSBE program, 10 points. And it basically walks through what they want here, okay? It is the requirement that all responding bidders attend the mandatory meeting within 2 weeks of the solicitations advertisement. That would be good to know, because if you don't show up for this, well, there's also the criteria for evaluation. As you can see, it's all laid out. Contractor administration, and within that, there is the submittal instructions, and pre-proposal conference are strongly encouraged to attend. So here's the proposal duration. It gives you information on that. Open Records Act, without regard to any designation made by the person or entity making a submission, Ducky County considers all information submitted in response to this invitation or request to be a public record. So if you have any proprietary information you do not want to disclose, well, then you probably shouldn't, respond to this RFP. And then first source job ordinance, okay? A good faith effort to hire Ducky County residents for at least 50% of the jobs. They talk about the ethics rules, okay? They talk about a gift, meal, travel expense, ticket, or anything else of value. The contractor must provide written disclosure quarterly of the extent, nature, and value of the purchase to the Chief Integrity Officer. Very important to know. Okay, and then they talk about the award contract, and then they have attachments. Attachment A, which is the cost proposal plan form, and state a firm hourly rate. Very important to know. Proposal cover sheet. Caution, inside that it talks about the postmaster will not deliver certified or special delivery mail, and to consider a courier. And they've got the contractor release and reference form, subcontractor, same type of form, and then the opportunity tracking form. So now we're going to look at the response. And I know it seems a little maybe far-fetched, but it's important to know that reviewing this proposal, it's definitely has some issues. So this is the response from the CAPC Consulting LLC. And the first thing we notice, if you look at this, we'll look through it real quick here. There's some things that I have highlighted, and we're going to go back through and answer some of these questions. So you should have this document in front of you. And we're just going to kind of review it together. So my first question would be, we're going to review the proposal and we're going to look at the cover page. And what's wrong here? Well, the first thing is the RFP says don't use special delivery, use a courier. And as you can see right off the bat at the top, they said sent via special delivery mail. Next thing, Chief Executive Officer. The proposal is supposed to be addressed to the purchasing department. Second error. In the second paragraph within the cover letter, it talks about marketing to the government, and they talk about dramatic improvements, enclosed corporate brochure, and then world's class company. This is basically poorly worded and sloppy. We've gone down and looked here, and it says we're delighted to see that the description of work that we've prepared is reflected in your RFP scope of work. In addition, the relationship we built with the purchasing department's team through the series of monthly lunch and learns we hosted over the past year certainly appears to have succeeded in bringing us together on a single approach. Huge ethics violation. And then we're looking at the last paragraph, which says, as soon as possible, since we anticipate other work coming our way, we cannot begin your work by March 1st. We may have to delay the commencement of your work. Well, it conflicts with the schedule for work completion in the RFP. And then down below, they CC'd the county commissioners. I think that's kind of a bad move. They're basically politicizing the procurement process, and that's another ethics violation. So if we look at the actual RFP response, at the bottom on the title page, it says what? It says all contents of this proposal are required to be treated as confidential and remain the property of CAPC LLC, all rights reserved. Is this appropriate? Absolutely not. The RFP has stated that proposals are public documents, as you can see in the original RFP. In the introduction, what do you notice? One of the things that is noteworthy in here is they have actually gone through and cut and pasted the following steps, A through L, directly out of the RFP. They haven't addressed anything. And they haven't said they haven't answered the questions and given a response to what the RFP is asking. And then the last paragraph, we wish to assure county personnel that our company has a fairly good grasp of the Department of Public Health's needs. And then they say, willing to make changes in the work description at any time upon daily direction, either oral or in writing by any county official. Okay, oops. Obviously, they've cut and pasted this from another proposal. They refer to a totally different client. One of the important things to remember in your responses is if you're cut and pasting from another response that you put out there, make sure you read it through several times and take out the parts that aren't relative to the current RFP. So what's wrong with the company history, the relevant experience, and the team experience section? Well, the cover letter does a poor job of addressing this because they say, please see description and cover letter. And even if it did address it in the cover letter, it's a mistake to simply refer to something because you are making the reviewer go back to find the cover letter and review that. You don't want them to have to look back and forth. Bad practice. The proposal document alone should be responsive to every aspect of the RFP. So one thing to note. And the relevant experience. As pointed out in our cover letter, we have been marketing our electronic services to government units for over 10 years. Please call for details and references if necessary. Not responsive to the requirements of the RFP. So has the proposal addressed the project understanding and solutions, the approach to implementation and project management sections? Well, they talk here about, they understand the county well. Here are a few insights. Again, the following bullet points are taken right out of the RFP. So they are not responding to anything in this section. So under approach to implementation and project management, they said once the contract is awarded, we will, and then they have given some descriptions. They're presuming that they are going to win, and the following items will be addressed in a good proposal. So if they don't even get looked at for an award, what's going to happen is they have not given them any details, and most likely the reviewer is going to throw it out. And then we're looking at what's wrong with the offer's comments in the county's responsibilities narrative. One of the things is they've asked for biweekly payments from the county. So they're dictating to the county their payment terms, and that's not how it works. So they can't dictate. Payment terms might be negotiated, but more than likely they are not. So under budget, did they address the budget requirements? If you look back at their response, they said, we recommend that the county and our company meet shortly after receipt of this proposal to work out fees. Okay. And based on the personal relationships we have with county officials, we believe that a mutually beneficial budget can be arrived at. So no cost proposal was submitted as required by the RFP. And they're again politicizing their response by talking about their personal relationships with the county officials. So what do you see as an issue with the security requirements section? Well, if you look at it, you notice that the fonts are totally different. And it looks like they've been cut and pasted from something else. Also, the same thing with the infrastructure standards. They're not relevant to this proposal at all. In addition to the changes in fonts, they have made some weird comments, and the reviewer is going to go, what does this have to do with our RFP request? So has the evaluation criteria been met in the fundamental requirements and capabilities section? Is the exception, service and support, and warranty section relevant? Under the requirements and capabilities, they basically have said, using the county's criteria for evaluation, we score at the highest level in all categories. And when we meet with the county for the contract kickoff, we will be prepared to present our rationale. Until that time, be assured that most of our approach will be provided out of the box. So they have not addressed the evaluation criteria at all. This is a bunch of baloney. A good proponent would strive in its proposal to speak to as many of the government's evaluation criteria as possible. And under the exception, under the service and support, and under the warranty section, what relevance did it even have to the RFP? Nothing. So what's wrong with the products, upgrades, and training section? All training will be provided by our offshore partners. And then it talks about what the training will cover. Well, in the RFP, it asked to use at least 50% of the Ducky County residents and partners. This could be a great opportunity for them, but they're not taking it. Did the deployment section address the scope of work? No, not at all. It shows a lack of understanding of what the scope of work is. On the last page, what stands out that makes this a poor conclusion? Well, they basically have said, our serious commitment to meeting all your needs is what the contract is based on. The proven relationships we have built over the past year. The references we are prepared to provide upon request. They asked for references to be included in the response, which it was not. Our attention to detail and completeness. Really? Not really. They were not detailed. They did not address what the RFP requested, and it was not complete. We meet all E-Verify and veteran-friendly requirements. Our drivers are insured. What does that have to do with the RFP? They didn't ask for drivers. And we're a LSBE, and all other attributes spelled out in the proposal. They didn't spell out anything. And then at the end, unless Sally Smith is an officer of the company, her signature may not be binding. So the owner of the company did not even sign the proposal. So we're going to kind of wrap up here a little bit. And we normally, when we do this live, we have a lot more that we go through. It's usually a 2.5 to 3 hour training. but we try to keep it short and give you some ideas of what to look for. So we want you to look at following the instructions and tips provided, and you'll submit a responsive proposal that will receive serious consideration. Remember, attention to detail is of paramount importance when preparing a proposal. And follow the instructions contained in each RFP. There's no such thing as a proposal template. Each RFP is different, and proposals must be carefully tailored to the requirements of each proposal. As you can see, that CAPC did nothing to put a good proposal together. They just assumed that because they had been literally taking the county officials out to lunch, the purchasing department out to lunch, that they would be automatically given the contract. And once they were awarded the contract, then they could go ahead and adjust their response, which is not what is going to happen on this. They did not win the contract. So it's important to remember that as you prepare your responses, that you are looking to address everything they asked for, not less, not more, but what they asked for. So that is the end of our proposal wrap up, and we hope that you got a little bit of information from this. And I'm going to open up the chat in case you had any questions. Okay, if you want to unmute yourselves, you can, if you want to ask the questions. If you can't figure out how to unmute yourself, then go ahead and type in the chat what your question is. You don't have any questions. Okay, that's great. Well, here's our contact information. Remember, we do this training on an individual basis, like to companies. We've done and presented this at several companies at their locations. And then we go in a lot more in depth into looking at RFPs and proposals. We look at statements of work. We look at evaluation criteria, which we just didn't have the time to do. So we thank you for participating. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Shannon or myself. And we can also do other types of trainings. Just let us know if we need to help you review our proposal response. We also do that. So we appreciate it, and we thank you for your time.
Best way to find new RFP to work on, from Brian.
Okay, so the best way to find RFPs or solicitation opportunities are pretty much in SAM.gov under contract opportunities if you are looking for federal contracts. There is also different areas in the state. Most common one is EMAX. You can sign up for EMAX emails. They will give you an opportunity to select different categories that apply to your business, and then these emails will be dropped into your inbox. The local ones are a little more harder to find, but we do have a service that for second stage companies that are looking to aggressively pursue contracts. It's called BidMatch. And if you want more information on that, let us know and we can walk you through that process. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, government solicitations in my NAICS.
What do they want to know about NAICS?
He said, yes, government solicitations in my NAICS.
Oh, yeah. And that is how you would do your searches under contract opportunities. We can show you how to do that. There's different filters in SAM.gov under contract opportunities where you can actually search on your NAICS code. You can search on the area of a contract if you want to do it just locally, or if you want to do nationwide or regional. You can target a specific, you can put in keywords, target a specific agency. All those filters are available in SAM under contract opportunities, and we can show you how to do that. Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Great. Is there any others? All right. Well, again, thank you for attending, and let us know if you have any questions or if you're interested at all in going into more depth on the training one-on-one or at your area business. We can hold it there or we can hold it at GFD. Thank you very much.